All right, can everybody hear me? All right, welcome. It's 5:30 and it looks like we have a quorum and a full slate. So I will call to order this meeting of the Madison Plan Commission for June 23rd, 2025. Director Tuttle, would you call the roll?
Okay. Alder Field,
Here.
Alder Glenn,
Here.
Alder Ugair,
Here.
Commissioner Heck,
Here.
Commissioner McCahill,
Here.
Commissioner Mendez,
Here.
Commissioner Sanders,
Here.
Commissioner Solheim,
Here.
Alternate Bazine,
Here.
Alternate Wisniewski,
Present.
and Chair Ganam.
Here. Thanks.
And I do not see School District Representative Soldner.
All right, thanks. So as we start, we'll start with information from our technical facilitator Poole.
All right, welcome to our virtual Plan Commission meeting. We're going to cover a few basic items before beginning. If you lose connection at any point during the meeting, you can reconnect by clicking the link or calling the number in your original email. Members and city staff, members, if you are able, please activate your video and keep it on for the duration of the meeting. Staff, if you are able, please activate your video when you're speaking. Use the raise hand feature when you'd like to be recognized to speak or ask questions. Staff, click raise hand when you are asked a question. The chair will do the best to call on committee members in the order in which your hands are raised. Lowering your hand will take you out of the queue. Members of the public who have registered to speak, the name you entered in Zoom must match the name you entered in registration. You will remain muted until called upon. The clerk will tell you when your time is up. After all registrants speak, a member of the body may ask you a question. If you need to share documentation with the commission, please send it to the email listed on today's agenda. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So our first agenda item is time for public comment regarding items not on the Plan Commission agenda tonight. Director Tuttle, do we have any registrants for public comment tonight?
No, Chair, we do not.
Okay. Thanks. Next is time for disclosures and recusals. Members of the Plan Commission should make any required disclosures or recusals under the city's ethics code. So I'll ask if anyone wants to has anything to disclose tonight. Commissioner Solheim.
Thank you. I have a disclosure for agenda item 8. The organization that I work for has partnered with the applicant on other development projects, but has no involvement or prior knowledge of this project, so it will not impact my vote.
Thank you. Commissioner Mendez.
Yep, thank you. Agenda items 11, 12, and 13. I'm an employee of UW-Madison, and I am also involved with these projects, so I will be abstaining from the vote on these.
Thank you. We will note that in the minutes as those items are considered. Alder Field.
Thank you, Chair. I'm also an employee of UW-Madison. I have not worked on these and I'm not involved in them in any way. So they will not affect my vote. That relationship will not affect my vote. So just a disclosure on my end. Thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, any other disclosures or recusals? Commissioner McCahill.
Thanks. I am also an employee of the university on those same items, but it will not affect my vote.
All right, thank you. Always lots when UW's on the agenda. So, all right. Seeing no more additional disclosures or recusals, our next item is the minutes of the June 9th, 2025 regular meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those draft minutes that were shared with us? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the last meeting's minutes in a second? Commissioner Solheim, thank you. And Commissioner Mendez, thank you. Hey, just got in under the wire, Alder Glenn. Any discussion on our motion to approve the minutes? Commissioner Heck?
Thank you. I'll abstain from this vote as I wasn't present.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner McCahill?
I will also be abstaining.
Okay. That is acceptable. Any other? Yeah, we were a little shorthanded, but we got through the agenda. Any additional discussion on last meeting's minutes? Is there any objection to unanimous approval for those minutes, other than those who are abstaining? All right, seeing none, we'll record that motion as passed. All right, we'll highlight our schedule of meetings. Our next meeting is two weeks from tonight, Monday, July 7th, and then also July 28th. And then in August, we have meetings on August 11th and 25th. And those will all be regular virtual meetings at 5:30 p.m. All right. And we have an initial item of routine. Oh, I'm sorry. No, we have an initial item of routine business, but that is going to go on the consent agenda. So I think we will just proceed to talk about the consent agenda. It's the custom of the Plan Commission to remove from our agenda those items on which staff members believe an application has been sufficiently reviewed to support approval with all of the conditions placed upon it by the various city departments and in which the applicant accepts those conditions. And there are no individuals who have registered to speak in opposition to those items. We also tend to do referrals in our consent agenda when items are referred at the request of the applicant or in connection with discussion with staff. So the items proposed for tonight's consent agenda are on the screen before you. And for approval on consent, we have item 2, item 10, items 11, 12, and 13, which would be subject to the recusal that Alder Mendez had identified for those items. Then items 16, 17, and 18. Those are all recommended for approval on consent. And then for referral to a future meeting is item 9, which we would need to identify a date for that item to come back to the agenda. And then for referral to the July 7th meeting, we have items 14, 15, and 19. All right. Of the items that are before us on the screen, are there any requests from commissioners for separation of those items to have them considered separately in tonight's meeting? All right. Seeing none, I will read those items into our record, and then we'll proceed to the public hearings on them. So item 2 is Legistar 88676, and that is permitting the early acquisition of land and utility interests as set forth on the relocation order and transportation project plat number 5992-10-19 4.02 as adopted by the Common Council by Res 2500237, and that has a file ID of 87610 and relates to land in Alder District 9. Item 10, I'm sorry, I'm gonna do the approvals first and then come back to item 9. Item 10 is a Legistar item 88450, which is a substitute creating section 28.022-00718 of the Madison General Ordinances to change the zoning of property located at 1138 Williamson Street from TRV2, Traditional Residential Varied 2 District, to TSS, Traditional Shopping Street District, and that's in Alder District 6. Item 11 is Legistar 87841, creating section 28.022-00712 of the Madison General Ordinances to change the zoning of property located at 1970 through 1978 University Bay Drive from CN Conservancy District to PR Parks and Recreation District. This is in Alder District 5. Item 12 is Legistar 87657, again relating to 1970 through 1978 University Bay Drive in Alder District 5. This is consideration of a conditional use in the proposed Parks and Recreation District for a community center, consideration of a conditional use in the Parks and Recreation District for a public safety and service facility, consideration of a conditional use in the Park and Recreation District for a building exceeding 35 feet in height, and consideration of a conditional use pursuant to MGO Section 28.138 for construction within 300 feet of the ordinary high water mark of Lake Mendota, all to allow construction of an 11,500 square foot visitor center for the Lakeshore Nature Preserve on the University of Wisconsin-Madison campus. Item 13 is Legistar 88477, vacating and discontinuing a portion of public street right-of-way of University Bay Drive, realigning and accepting a permanent limited easement for public street purposes, and amending the City of Madison official map, all to allow for the future relocation of University Bay Drive and construction of the Lakeshore Nature Preserve Fauci Center. This land is located in part of the southeast quarter of the northeast quarter and part of the southwest quarter of the northeast quarter of Section 16, Township 7 North, Range 9 East, City of Madison, Dane County, Wisconsin, again in Alder District 5. Moving to item 16. Item 16 is Legistar 88203. Relating to property at 501 East Washington Avenue in Alder District 6. And this is consideration of a demolition permit to demolish an office building. Item 17 also relates to the address at 501 East Washington Avenue, Urban Design District 4 in Alder District 6. And this is consideration of a conditional use in the Urban Mixed Use UMX District for a multifamily dwelling with more than 8 dwelling units, consideration of a conditional use in the UMX district for outdoor recreation, and consideration of a conditional use in the UMX district for a new building greater than 20,000 square feet and more than 4 stories, all to allow construction of a 7-story apartment building containing 223 units. Item 18 is Legistar 88209. This is approving a certified survey map of property owned by the WMC Foundation, Inc., located at 501 East Washington Avenue, again in Alder District 6. Those are the approval items. A referral to a future meeting date is item 9, which is Legistar 88341, relating to 1402 Pancratz Street in Alder District 12. This is consideration of a conditional use in the Suburban Employment SE District for a private school. And then items for referral to July 7th are item 14, which is, Legistar 88449, creating sections 28.022-00716 and 28.022-00717 of the Madison General Ordinances to change the zoning of portions of property located at 6004 Commercial Avenue and 604 to 902 Reiner Road from A Agricultural District to TR-P Traditional Residential Plan District and TR-U1 Traditional Residential Urban 1 District, respectively, in Alder District 3. And then item 15 is Legistar 88206, approving the preliminary plat of the Ryland Grove on property addressed as 6004 Commercial Avenue and 604 to 902 Reiner Road in Alder District 3. And finally, item 19, which is Legistar 88336, relating to property at 709 Northport Drive in District 18. Consideration of a conditional use in the Traditional Residential Urban 1 TRU1 District for a multifamily dwelling with greater than 60 units to allow construction of a 4-story, 80-unit apartment building in a planned multi-use site to also contain a proposed 4-story, 24-unit apartment building and an existing place of worship. So, I will open the public hearing and close the public hearing for the items on our consent agenda and move to a vote. I would ask for a motion and a second to approve our consent agenda. Alder Field, thank you. Alder Glenn, thank you. Is there any objection to unanimous approval for the consent items as proposed and read? Seeing none, we'll record the consent agenda as passed unanimously. Thanks. All right, now we will go back to the regular agenda, which will take us to item 3. So items 3 through 7 are all related to tax incremental financing districts. And so we have Dan Ross, a manager from our finance, from our real estate group with us tonight. Welcome, Dan. I think, Dan, were you going to talk about these together and then vote on them separately, or did you want to talk about each one? How do you want to do that?
I have a presentation that covers all 5 and is brief and puts them all as one presentation.
That sounds great. All right.
All right. If I can share my screen, I will share it here. And here we go. If y'all could just let me know when you can see my screen, that would be great.
There we go. We can see it.
Fabulous. All right. So we'll go through the 5 districts and talk about generally what is in each one. First one is TID 42. This is a tax increment district located on the South Park area, where it intersects generally with the Wingra Creek, right around the Wingra Triangle area. There's one change being proposed in this amendment to add $1.4 million to pay for South Park Street utilities, leading to that being the only change in this proposed project plan amendment. We project the TID will close in 2028 with an estimated incremental value at closure of around $85 million. That assumes that there are no other amendments, changes, or otherwise in place. So that is TID 42. Next, we have TID 45. This is just to the west of the Capitol Square, northwest of John Nolan Drive around West Wash. You can see the map here. There's one change. We are changing the John Nolan Drive underpass funding is removed and reallocated to John Nolan Drive in general. That's it. You could take a line and draw it through the underpass portion of this comment, or of this line item, and that would be the only change. So there's no change in cost. It's just shifting those costs from the underpass to the project as a whole. We project the TID to close in 2030 with an estimated incremental value of $178 million at closure. This assumes that there is no change in incremental value, tax rate, or other expenditures or amendments. Next, we have TID 48. You can see this here. It goes up and down Regent Street from roughly Camp Randall Stadium to Regent Street's intersection with West Washington Avenue. There are a couple changes here. One is adding some more money for South Park utilities. Second is funding for the West Wash and Southwest Commuter Bike Path, railroad crossing, and lighting. A total change to that TID of around just over $2 million of capital costs for these infrastructure projects. We estimate that the TID will close in 2028 with an incremental value at closure of $225 million. This again assumes that there are no additional amendments or changes, which in this case is probably likely. We might see some more projects come along here. Next, we have TID 53. This is a project plan and boundary amendment. This, you can see the TID in black there as it's currently created. The project plan amendment would add a couple parcels on the northeast corner of it, adding in specifically the WMC parcel to include the 501 East Wash 4% affordable housing project. The one change to the project plan other than the boundary amendment is adding a development loan for the 501 East Washington Avenue development project. for a total TIF funded project cost of $15.3 million. We estimate the TID to close in 2033 with an estimated incremental value at closure of $156 million. And last but not least is TID 55. This is a newly created or proposed to be created TID. This would encompass the Voigt Farm you can see on the sort of western or the left-hand side of the map. This goes east and west down Milwaukee Street, takes in Woodman's, Amazon Distribution Center, some commercial properties out there as well. There are three primary costs proposed for this new district. Money set aside for development loans to assist development primarily at the former Voigt Farm. Land acquisition, where the city would acquire 4 of the lots in Voigt Farm, lots 6, 9, 10, and 13. And then administrative costs to cover things like audits, staff time, staff review, etc. Total TIF funded project cost of $8.5 million. We project the TID to close in 2035. It may be 2036 with an additional year for incremental, for affordable housing. And the estimated value at closure is $110 million. That's the whole shenanigans. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
We will, so stay tuned for questions. I think what we'll do is take these items in turn for public hearing. And then, Megan, do we have registrants on these items?
No, but we should open and close the public hearing for each one.
Okay, so we'll take the items in turn, and why don't we start with item 3, which is TID District number 42, and I will open the public hearing. And Megan, if we have
no registrants for this item, Chair.
Okay, so we will close the public hearing for item 3, which is Legistar 88724. Why don't I read the full item, and then we will have time for questions of staff and move to motion. So item 3 is Legistar 88724, approving the amendment to the project plan for tax incremental district TID number 42, Wingra, the city of Madison, and Alder District 13. We will open the public hearing and close the public hearing for this item, and then I will ask if commissioners have questions for staff on item 3. If there are no questions, Alder Field.
Thank you, Chair. Without questions from folks, I was wondering if I could offer a comment or proceed. Yeah. I really find the project plan documents tremendously helpful with the color coding with each annual update. That makes it easy to scroll through and compare what the actual change that's in front of us, right? The TIDs are complicated and their role in financing projects is complicated and comes up in a variety of different shapes and different types of city business. But these are the documents that I find pulls it all together. So I just am grateful for how approachable they are using the color coding. Made it easier to prepare for this meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Alderfield. Commissioner Solheim.
Thank you. Just one quick question. Dan, you mentioned in the last one, I think TID 55, how there was the projected end date and then it may be extended 1 year for the affordable housing extension. Do you anticipate that 1 year extension on the other districts as well?
I would anticipate, thank you. I would anticipate that the additional year for affordable housing would be standard operating procedure moving forward for every district that we have. It's been a substantial source of funding for the Affordable Housing Fund. It's just, districts close when they've recovered all their increment or all their outstanding debt. But I would assume that that's standard operating procedure moving forward.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Solheim. Other questions on item 3, or frankly any of the TIF items for Dan? Megan.
I'm wondering if Dan could share just a bit about what the Plan Commission's role is in the context of all of these items this evening.
Certainly. So that's a very good question. Thank you. So the Plan Commission has a role that's outlined in state statutes. There are 3 areas where the Plan Commission specifically has to make a finding. These are laid out in each project plan amendment and creation resolution that we bring forward. The first is that it finds that more than 50% of the area in each TID is either lighted, as defined in state statute, or suitable and zoned for either mixed-use development or industrial development. Each of these districts, there's a mix of mixed use and lighted area TIDs in this case for the 5 that you see in front of you tonight. Second finding that you need to opine on in your recommendation to council is that the improvements are likely to enhance the value of a substantial portion of the real property in the TID. This is where one of the places where the Plan Commission has a role as well. Additionally, that the equalized taxable property value of all TIDs plus existing TIDs and the current amendment does not exceed 12% of the equalized taxable property within the city. We are well under that cap. And finally, that the project plan in and of itself is in conformance with the comprehensive plan for the city of Madison. Where we fall with that is that all of our maps that we use are referenced from the existing comprehensive plan. And we make reference to, in the project plan, I don't recall the specific language, but something to the effect of that the TID project plan and any amendments thereto would also be in conformance with the city's comprehensive plan. Thank you. Does that get to your question?
Yes, thank you. And I think just want to confirm that in this case, the resolution that's attached will ultimately be adopted by the city council. And the Plan Commission is making an advisory recommendation in this case.
Thanks, Megan. Alder Figueroa Cole.
Thank you. Dan, so can you, for the ones that are just budget amendments, what is the specific ask for Plan Commission? They don't change the lines, or what is just an actual funding source? What is the task?
So I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
I guess I'm still trying to connect the dots on that particular case based on what you just explained.
Certainly. So in the places where we're simply making budget amendments, there really isn't a major change. It's simply saying what was previously approved is, assuming that the body is still amenable to that, is still in line with the city's comprehensive plan, that we haven't gone over the 12% cap, and so on and so forth. So it's really, in most of those cases, simply reaffirming what was already approved with the creation of those particular TIDs. The only other thing I would note is every now and then when we update our maps for TID amendments, there are changes that just flow into those maps, be they parcel line adjustments or zoning changes or land use changes. Those are simply reflected in the updated maps that we create as part of that amendment process. So we're really just, all we're doing is reflecting things that the council has already adopted, be they land use changes or land divisions as well.
But so the budget changes are actually approved by finance, right?
So each of these, that's a good question. Every TIF district goes to finance in the city. The finance is the lead.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the lead commission or lead committee, excuse me, on these entities or on these projects. The difference, though, is that state statutes require that we bring tax increment districts to the Plan Commission for this public hearing. So we are doing as required by statute. There's a notice that we're required to publish. We have to provide a copy of that notice to the Department of Revenue every year when we send in any amendments or creations. It is a lengthy and, let me just say, very enjoyable bureaucratic process. If you're a person who loves bureaucracy, I have got some notices that we could just talk all about.
Will do.
But yes, but the Plan Commission is required to review them per statute.
Okay.
And then we bring them forward to finance and then on to council for action.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. So we can, if we have more questions for Dan, that's great. Our requested action is to, for item 3, to recommend approval to council for the amendment to the project plan for this district. And again, I think with, as Dan noted, with the finding that the applicable standards are met. I think hopefully that, Megan, you can correct me if that was a little bit off.
I think as long as Dan concurs that it's to council and not to finance. Is that correct, Dan?
That's correct. You're assuming it is the will of the body. It would be to recommend approval by the council for each of these amendments and creations.
Anyone want to make a motion to that effect? Commissioner Solheim.
I'll move that the Plan Commission recommend approval to the Common Council for item 3, Legistar 88724, pursuant to the findings in the resolution and the included TID amendment report.
Thank you. Alderfield, got a second? Thank you. Any discussion of the motion? If not, is there any objection to unanimous approval for this item? All right, seeing none. Before we go to item 4, I'm tracking the current weather in Madison, if others are doing that too. And I think we're about to get some storms. And so if you have to get to a safe place, make sure you do that. And I think we'll continue the meeting as long as that remains feasible. But I just wanted to, anyway, I heard the little buzzing on our radio in the background, and I wanted to make sure people were prioritizing physical safety. But I think we can continue to item 4, which is Legistar 88725, approving the amendment to the project plan for tax incremental district TID number 45, Capitol Square West, City of Madison, and Alder District 4. And we will, again, open the public hearing. Megan, can you confirm if we have registrants for item 4?
Oh, no registrants for item 4.
Okay, great. So we will close the public hearing. And I'll ask the commissioners if they have any questions on this particular item for Dan Ross or other city staff. And if not, again, our job is to recommend approval or non-approval to the Common Council based on the information before us. Commissioner Solheim, thanks.
For item 4, Legistar 88725, I move that the Plan Commission recommend approval to Common Council pursuant to the findings in the resolution and the TID amendment report for TID 45.
Thank you. Alder Glenn, is that a second? Thank you very much. Any discussion of this motion? Seeing none, is there any objection to unanimous approval for item 4? All right, we'll record it as approved. We'll go to item 5, which is Legistar 88726, approving the amendment to the project plan for tax incremental district TID number 48, the Regent Street TID, City of Madison, Alder Districts 4, 8, and 13. I will open the public hearing on this item. And Megan, do we have registrants for this item?
No registrants on number 5.
Okay, great. So we will close the public hearing and move to a motion. Commissioner Solheim, thank you.
I think I got this down, so I'll keep going.
Yeah.
For item 5, Legistar 88726, I'll move that the Plan Commission recommend approval to Common Council pursuant to the findings in the resolution and the TID amendment report for TID 48.
Thank you, Alder Glenn. Is that a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, any objection to unanimous approval for item 5? All right, we will record that as unanimously approved. For item 6, we have Legistar number 88727, approving the amendment to the project plan and boundary for tax incremental district TID number 53, the East Wilson Street area, City of Madison, Alder Districts 2, 4, and 6. I will open the public hearing. And are there any registrants?
No registrants on this item.
Okay, thank you. I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion from the commission. Commissioner Solheim.
For item 6, Legistar 88727, I'll move that the Plan Commission recommends approval to Common Council pursuant to the findings in the resolution and the TID amendment report for TID 53.
Thank you, Alder Glenn. Thanks for your second. Any discussion? Seeing none, any objection to unanimous approval for item 6? All right, that'll bring us to item 7, Legistar 88728, approving the project plan and boundary for tax incremental district TID number 55, relating to the Voigt Farm, City of Madison, and Alder District 15. I will open the public hearing. Do we have any registrants?
Apologize, I misspoke earlier. We have no registrants wishing to speak, but we do have a registrant on this item. Don Lindsay of District 12 is registered in opposition, but not wishing to speak.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commission for our registrant on item 7? All right, seeing no raised hands, I'll close the public hearing on this item, and I will ask if the commission have questions for staff, and if not, if we would like to move to a motion. Commissioner Solheim.
For item 7, Legistar 88728, I'll move that the Plan Commission recommend approval to the Common Council pursuant to the findings in the resolution and the project plan for TID 55.
Thank you. Alder Field, is that a second? Thank you. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, is there any objection to unanimous approval for this item? All right, we will record that as approved. Thanks, Dan, for your presentation, and we will move on to our development-related requests and item 8. So item 8 is Legistar 87879. This relates to 4506 through 4514 Verona Road in Alder District 10. Consideration of a conditional use in the Commercial Center District for dwelling units in a mixed-use building to allow construction of a 5-story mixed-use building containing 324 square feet of commercial space and 93 apartments. And I think we'll start with a presentation from planning staff. Planner Punt, welcome.
Yes, thank you. So for this item, 4506 to 4514 Verona Road, the applicant is seeking conditional use approval to construct a 5-story 93-unit mixed-use building upon the demolition of 2 existing commercial buildings. Those demolitions are now before the commission for approval. First thing I will bring up from the staff report is that the comprehensive plan recommends general commercial land uses for this site. General commercial areas are intended to provide a wide range of retail goods and services, but general commercial includes many automobile-oriented uses and heavy commercial uses with the appearance or operational characteristics not generally compatible with residential uses. General commercial districts are not generally recommended for residential uses. especially those that are adjacent to highways due to noise impacts. Though some uses may be considered as part of conditional uses per the comprehensive plan under the relevant zoning districts where there is adequate access to parks, transit, and a walkable street network. Keeping all of that in mind, planning staff raised several concerns about this proposal in the staff report, particularly regarding establishing residential development in this location under the current conditions. In the May 19 staff report, staff identified concerns regarding conditional use standards of approval 1, 2, and 4. I would at this time call your attention to the staff report appendix 1, which compares the proposal to several similar approved proposals in similar sites and situations, specifically with regards to some of the considerations in those conditional use standards. Since the publication of the original staff report, the applicant has submitted several additional pieces of information, including a memo responding to the analysis in the May 19 staff report. Planning staff subsequently also published an addendum to the original staff report that acknowledged the additional materials provided by the applicant and also included revised and clarified comments from the police department and the Parks Division. I will not read through everything in that addendum. However, I will state that regarding approval standard 2, which had been previously discussed in the original staff report, staff now believe that it may be possible for the commission to find that standard to be met. If the plan commission can find that all conditional use standards of approval, including 1, 2, and 4, as originally outlined in the staff report, can be found met given the additional information conveyed in both the staff report addendum and in the applicant's supplemental letters and other materials. Staff recommend that the commission approve the conditional use request. However, if the commission, in the face of that additional information, still cannot find standard 1, 4, or any other individual standard to be met, staff recommends that the commission should place this request on file. Regardless of what the motion from the commission is, it should state its findings and reasonings for that motion and that decision. After the public hearing, I am happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Thanks, Colin. We do have registrants for this item, so we will open the public hearing. To be fair to everyone, each registrant will have 3 minutes to speak, and I'll try to interrupt briefly and give you a warning when you're close to the time limit. I think we have a group who've pulled their time as well, if I remember correctly, but Megan, will you call on the registrants wishing to speak?
Right, Chair. Yes, we do have a request to pool time from the applicant team. Registrants Kevin Burrow, Kevin McDonald, and Christopher Carr will be pooling their time and intend to speak in that order. So I will be setting a timer for 9 minutes for the collective group to speak.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, Kevin, I think your microphone is live whenever you're ready. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for calling over our presentation slides. Good evening. My name is Kevin Burrow with Kenoeth and Bruce Architects. If you can go to the next slide, please. What I would like to present to you is the overall proposed development at the intersection of the Beltline and Verona Road is highlighted in the center of your screen there. And this site is located in close proximity, similar to the other 3 corners of this interchange with regards to providing apartments at this location. Next slide, please. With our proposed site layout, you can see that we're utilizing the shared access drive on the northern side of the property and have pushed the building furthest to the south and to the west in order to provide a rather unique shaped building which creates an outdoor amenity space sheltered by the building away from the highway itself. And we utilize a shared drive, we're able to provide access to the underground parking and surface parking as well. The main entry is located on the northeast corner of the building. Next slide, please. Here you can see the site layout comparison. Some concern was raised with regards to the proximity to UW bookstore and whether or not this proposed development will impede access for their property. And what we wanted to highlight is the fact that the shared access drive is remaining unchanged, and actually we are improving the access to their loading docks by locating the buildings further away and providing more visual access, and at the same time closing off 2 of the 3 drives along that frontage road to provide safer access to the overall highway as well. Next slide, please. The proposed floor plans are shown here. We are providing underground parking for the residents. What I would like to highlight is the bright green elements that are shown in the upper right-hand corner, where we have added an outdoor play space for all residents on that sheltered area, and then an indoor playroom as well. So all residents and young children would have access to play space, both indoor and outdoor. The rest of the building is a layout of mixture of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom apartments, and we are providing a community service facility adjacent to the main entry in the northeast corner of the building. Next slide, please. The exterior design is shown here. We are utilizing an overall masonry base element, and then the rest of the building is a high-quality cement board siding, so that the exterior materials are a dense, durable material, which will help with acoustics, as noise concerns were also raised at this location. And the building does step back on the top floor to provide visual interest along the highways. Next slide, please. With this slide, you can see that the outdoor amenity space is really sheltered from the highways. You can barely see it in the center courtyard area, and provides great outdoor amenities while maintaining the exterior design around all sides of the building. Next slide, please. This also reinforces that the same materials do carry around all sides. Next slide, please. What I'd like to highlight here is proximity to the local parks. We actually do have 3 city parks within a very short walking distance, one just being a 5-minute walk away, one an 8-minute, and one a 13-minute walk. And each of these walkways are secure and safe by utilizing the pedestrian tunnel underneath Veronage Road and the pedestrian bridge overpass across the Beltline. So no highways do have to be crossed for this. Next slide, please. Here you can see some concerns were raised with regards to proximity to grocery. There are 3 high-quality grocery stores in immediate context to this property, 2 being just a 5-minute walk away, 1 being a 10-minute walk away. And then in addition, with the bus stop directly in front of our property, we do have access to both Hy-Vee and Aldi with a short 15-minute bus ride. Next slide, please. And lastly, in regards to the schools, this particular site is actually located within the Verona School District, so all residents will have district-provided bus transportation to elementary, middle, and high school as well. And I'd like to turn it over to Kevin McDonald.
Next slide, please. I'm Kevin McDonald, locally based development partner for Lincoln Avenue Communities. Just last month, our team was ranked the #1 affordable housing developer in the country. Next slide, please. LAC is a mission-driven developer. We're committed to long-term partnerships and community investment. In Madison, all of our developments include dedicated space for resident empowerment services. And here we are partnered with Lutheran Social Services, Employment and Training Services, and the Dane County Veterans Service Office to deliver on-site case management and job services. We also collaborate with the Allied Wellness Center to offer programming in our community classroom. In addition, the development team is vertically integrated. I did want to highlight that we have an in-house originations team that is focused on looking at properties that are properly zoned, evaluating feasibility based on zoning, funding criteria, and state scoring systems. This site really stood out to our team in that it's in a WIDA-identified job center with job growth. It was also on a high rent burden census tract with great schools and strong access to amenities. That's why it's ranked as one of the top scoring sites in the state. This past round, the city of Madison had 7 applications to WIDA, and the development was the only development that was awarded in the 2020-25 round. As comparison, last year, Madison received 6 awards, And this year, that totaled about 500 units. And this year, this is the only 93 unit proposal that made the cut. This will be our first net zero ready certified building with renewable energy, indoor air quality certifications, and a UV catalyst filtration system. Next slide, please. First, I have to acknowledge there is a lot of information on this slide, way too much, but really the point we wanted to focus on here is how consistent the development is with the plans. We're accomplishing the majority of the goals for each of the plans. And really, the development increases the opportunity to support mixed-use development, provides additional services to the community while supporting the goal of providing over 15,000 homes and over 3,700 affordable homes by 2030 for the city of Madison. From a comprehensive plan perspective, the development meets the standards by providing affordable housing with good access to transportation. We provide on-site supportive services, and we are located in a growth priority area, delivering on the goal of providing a variety of uses within the general commercial district while supporting a mixed-use hub with good access to parks, transit, and a walkable street network. The proposal also delivers on a number of the allied neighborhood plans. We are obviously redeveloping two very, very underutilized sites. And finally, for the commercial center zoning district, the statement of purpose calls for encouraging the transformation of existing retail and office sites into mixed-use centers while encouraging the diversification of land uses in commercial centers that improve landscaping and urban design. Next slide, please. Per the staff report, these findings must be based on substantial evidence, not opinion, and we have that. Concerns about traffic and change are common to all urban development, but they've been specifically addressed here. Metro routes, bike trails, and the award-winning Verona Road redesign ensure excellent connectivity. For standard 1, health, safety, and welfare, traffic engineering confirms safe access. Our walk score data ranks the site actually the highest among the comps that were referenced. The Verona Road interchange has received 9 major awards. We meet the HUD noise standards, and also our design exceeds indoor air quality benchmarks. For standard 2, municipal services, metro, traffic engineering, and park staff have all confirmed that we meet the city's standards. For standard 4, we comply with existing commercial center zoning as outlined in the previous slide, supporting the mixed-use transition of the commercial corridor and showing that the site has good access to parks, transit, and a walkable street network. We strongly believe that we meet the conditional use standards that we find to be a low bar for the development. Next slide, please. We've included the air quality maps for the site, with our site identified by the red dot on the purple map, showing that the majority of the Isthmus and downtown Madison are considered to have poorer air quality than our site. Next slide, please. We've provided a summary of the combined walk scores from the comparable sites referenced in Appendix A, showing that our site is the highest ranked and on average over 17 points better than the comparables. Next slide, please.
Kevin, if you could wrap up, you're coming to the end of your 9 minutes.
Yep. The data is really clear. This one's a really important slide. The Verona Road interchange is actually very, very safe. As you can see, all corners on the site have multifamily properties already. And the data here shows that over the last 5 years, there have been 0 accidents that have involved a pedestrian or a bicyclist near the interchange. The yellow dot that is located near the sub-zero on the map is the only accident that was reported in the last 5 years. We have a number of other slides that are focused on the safety in the Verona Road area, but at the end, we have a few other team members that are on the slide that are available for questions. If you could go to the last slide.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Hey, Chair. As Kevin noted, there are a number of other members of the applicant team that are here this evening who have registered independently, and their names will be called as we approach them in the registrant list. Our next speaker, though, that signed up is Jean Armendariz Care. from District 20, registered in support and wishing to speak.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
We can. Welcome. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to give a few comments. I am the property owner of 4506 Verona Road, and I'm a 30-year Madison resident and basically live and work in these districts. I wanted to give you a bit of the local flavor as to why we think it's a great site as the property owner. So at the neighborhood meeting, there were folks who didn't think that this is what a housing site would look like, and I want to challenge that perception a bit. Next slide, please. So the location may feel busy by Madison standards, but it's also really connected. We loved this site for ourselves because it's 15 minutes from pretty much everything. Downtown Epic, Middleton, the East Side, 10 minutes to Costco, 15 minutes to Hy-Vee on the bus. Next slide, please. By bike, you're actually only 7 minutes to the Arboretum, 20 minutes to Camp Randall, and 30 minutes to the Capitol with that overpass over the Beltline. And we have biked all of this ourselves, even when our children were really young. Next slide. In fact, during our original rehab of this building in 2020, we actually paid money to add a shower to our building just so that we could use this bike path for exercise ourselves during the workday. Next slide. There's an incredible amount of places to go within just a few minutes walk from here. We visit Home Depot frequently, sometimes just for the hot dogs. There's Gino's for lasagna, El Panzón, and Taqueria El Jalapeño, as well as the La Tigre Lounge as some examples. Next slide. As a first-generation Hispanic and Asian American, I shop the grocery stores as well. And if you've never been, the Mercado Santa Maria has a ton of great food options, including beautiful produce, fresh meats, dairy. It's a fully stocked grocery store that I walk to in just a few minutes from here. And there's also Lunas and Variedades Nica from one of the prior slides. Next slide. All of these places are easily accessible either from the tunnel under Verona Road, which is well lit and wide open, or using the underpass under the Beltline, which looks intimidating, but it's actually really orderly because it has push-button activated walk signals. Next slide. I can speak from experience on the traffic as well. There really isn't much across this corner. We actually monitored a period of time on an average day and compared to the Taylor and Tuxedo over by Vitens. I happen to live in Green Tree and drive by it every morning. You can actually see that the actual number of cars crossing our drive is far fewer. And our intersection here is actually much safer. Schrader Road and Whitney Way are chaotic by comparison. Next slide.
You have about 30 seconds left, Jean.
Yep. Thank you. Acquiring a site is not easy. The due diligence period is long. Owners like me don't like the uncertainty. I am actually excited to play a role in this development by such a well-regarded organization as Lincoln, having done the ACRE program, which is a program the City of Madison sponsors. Next slide. Finally, to highlight the need for housing in the area, I did research into the properties that have sold. They range $92,000 for a small condo that sold for cash to $616,000 for a single family home a couple blocks away. Last slide. To afford one of these homes, someone would have to pay a substantial amount of cash for a down payment, be in competition with investors, and have a monthly housing budget of well over $2,000 to $3,000 a month, meaning a household income of at least $100,000 a year. So this is actually already a really desirable location for housing. I could go on. I know my time's up.
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, next registrant is Lindsay Elton from Chicago, registered in support, wishing to speak, and is representing Eco Achievers, a green building consulting firm.
I think your mic is live. Lindsay, welcome.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay Elton. I apologize. I did not put slides together, but I will make this quick. I'm speaking in support of this project in terms of the energy efficiency and indoor air quality aspects. As mentioned earlier, I run a green building consulting firm called Eco Achievers. We provide green building certification services to multifamily projects throughout the country, and we've done a lot of work in Wisconsin, in Madison, and Milwaukee. This project is seeking Enterprise Green Communities Plus certification, which means that it is achieving a certification in a comprehensive green building sustainability program that answers the sustainability call, I guess I would say, from a number of different aspects, from materials to location, to energy efficiency, to indoor air quality, etc. It is also getting the EGC plus tier of the certification, which means that it's going the extra step in terms of energy efficiency. And the program that they are achieving is called Zero Energy Ready Homes. It is also getting as a base the Energy Star program. And these two in combination get you one of the most aggressive, it's just the next step under passive house certification. So they're pushing the bar in terms of energy efficiency. Through the Zero Energy Ready Homes program, they are also achieving Indoor Air Plus, which is an indoor air quality program that looks at the building from a number of different perspectives: interior pollutants, exterior pollutants, radon, HVAC systems, things of that nature. In addition to these programs, this project is also utilizing MERV 13 filtration, which is very high when it comes to the particulate mitigation strategies, as well as this UV catalyst system, which uses UV and other technologies to combat VOCs, automobile pollutants, and other types of pollutants to really make sure that the indoor air quality is as high as possible. So I will leave it at that. If there are any questions that I can answer, I'm happy to. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next up is Bryant Meyer of District 11, representing Oakbrook Corporation, registered in support and wishing you.
I think your mic is live, Bryant, and welcome.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Excellent. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time. Quick, brief intro on myself and Oakbrook Corporation. I'm a 10-year industry vet in commercial real estate and development in the greater Dane County area with a focus on greater Madison and the surrounding communities. Speaking tonight in support of this project, and I wanted to give just a really brief synopsis as to the why behind that. I'll start with a statement saying we very much understand the importance of preserving land for future commercial use, especially along key corridors, but I would caveat that by saying when I look at what's actually happening on the ground in our market, it's clear that we need to take a more balanced approach to that. Many of my industry colleagues at Oakbrook Corp are seeing commercial sites sit vacant, and there is a declining amount of interest from quote-unquote traditional office and retail users. And at the same time, we are experiencing a rapid uptick in dire need for continued housing development, particularly affordable and workforce housing. So from my perspective, thoughtfully designed mixed-use projects like this can actually help strengthen the nearby commercial areas. We've heard and have employment clients in the nearby community that are very much in support of more affordable and workforce housing, as it would bring more opportunities from employment right to their door. And I would also caveat in saying there are many parts of the city that have actually absorbed a high share of affordable housing already. And this site gives an opportunity to promote and kind of provide a little bit better geographic balance. So kind of in summation, while preserving commercial land is really, really important, I think we need to maybe take a step back and be responsive to the needs of today, apply a little bit more of a flexible approach to help ease the housing shortage. And then, the flip side of that would be also supporting local businesses and employment right in that local economy. And I think this is a project is one that is a solution that can benefit everybody. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Mary Mullen of District 10, registered in opposition and wishing to speak.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can. Welcome. Thanks.
Okay, well, everybody so far has painted a perfect picture that this is a perfect place to live and it's going to be wonderful, and I don't agree. It's nice to have good air inside the building. I suppose that means the windows don't open. Of course, if they do open, then of course the pollution can come in. I don't know whether they open. And I completely disagree about whether it's safe to walk across Verona Road using the tunnel or going over overland. I use this. I've done it by bike. I've done it walking. And even if I use the tunnel, I have to cross 2 frontage roads at curves. And I would predict that if, 100, 200 people live in this building, that there'll be some kids, a kid maybe, that gets killed going at the curve. Myself, I'm very careful. I swivel my head back and forth, and I judge the speed of the traffic coming at me. It's very seldom that there's no traffic there at either place. And so the curves really make a huge difference. If it were a straightaway, you really could see, but you got to look both directions. And sometimes you can't see those cars that are coming fast. I did a walk around the neighborhood with the alder and with a number of other people in the neighborhood. And one person who's very much involved in the community says that the Derby has already got problems. The Derby, I think, was developed by the same people, the Lincoln Group, and they had 16, 17 calls per month for the police, and they don't feel that there's enough work with kids, or they don't have enough help to work with kids to keep them out of trouble as it is. And adding another 93 apartments, some of which will have kids, it seems like way too much for them. I'm also involved in talking with people at Allied Wellness. I haven't specifically talked to them about this, but they're working hard with people. But, adding a couple hundred people and also across the Beltline, it's not as easy to across the Verona Road, it's not as easy to cross as everybody so far has put. You need to really do it. The people talking are adults, they've biked, I've biked.
Mary, you have about 30 seconds left.
That's how I feel about it.
Yep. Mary, I just want to give you a warning. You have about 20 seconds left.
Oh, okay. So I would say, look at what the staff of the Plan Commission says. They don't agree that those standards have been met. And I think they're smarter than I am because it's their job. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Next up, we'll hear from Tyler Valken of District 10, registered in opposition and wishing to speak.
Tyler, you're able to unmute yourself. There you go.
All right, your mic is live. Welcome.
Tyler, you're unmuted on our end. You may have a mute button on your headset or the device that you're using to speak in, but we cannot hear you as of right now. I did see that you muted and unmuted, so you are unmuted on our end, but we cannot hear you right now. Yeah, as I said, if you have a mute, like a physical mute button on the hardware that you're using, I would look for that. Yeah, we're still not hearing you. Yeah, I see that you. Okay, Tyler, we're still not hearing you. My next best suggestion.
Could we go to the next registrant and come back to Tyler?
Yeah, Tyler, I would suggest that you exit the meeting and return on the link that you used, because sometimes that fixes this issue.
Okay, while we're troubleshooting for Tyler, we'll go to our next speaker, Robert Proctor. registered from Madison in support, wishing to speak and representing Lincoln Avenue community.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight.
Thanks,
under Wisconsin Statute 62.23(7) subparagraph DE, the Commission must approve a CUP if the applicant meets or agrees to meet all the applicable requirements and conditions. And this applicant has agreed to do so. Just as important to note, a conditional use permit that may be issued by a political subdivision does not need to be consistent with the political subdivision's comprehensive plan under Wisconsin Statute 66.1001 2M sub B. In the case of the city's ordinance, consistency with the comprehensive plan is not a standard under the conditional use permit. It is referenced in the preamble as requiring due consideration, but it is not actually a standard used to approve or deny the conditional use permit. That being said, I think that the material provided by the applicant and the presentation today clearly show that it meets most of the goals of the area plans. Now, in order to deny a conditional use permit, the Plan Commission would need to find by substantial evidence that the conditions were not met. And if we look at the facts, there is not anything in the record, whether it's the staff report, the public comments that were filed, that would allow for such a finding to be made. If you start with traffic and safety, there was actual data provided by the applicant that was out there that shows that there's 0 pedestrian or bike crashes on Verona Road or the intersection in the past 5 years. Madison Traffic Engineering at the neighborhood meeting and the transcripts on Legistar confirmed there's adequate road capacity and pedestrian infrastructure, including sidewalks and a new sidewalk or a new crosswalk that will be installed to address the condition of people crossing the road mid-road, and that there is a well-lit camera-monitored pedestrian tunnel. The tunnel, the overpass, and the controlled intersections are precisely the kind of infrastructure we should be building around. The argument that in some of the comments that the pedestrian tunnel is somehow a negative for this project is nonsensical. A commercial or retail development will have a far greater impact on the neighborhood. Traffic engineering estimated this development will generate just 200 to 250 daily trips. That's compared to
about 30 seconds left.
That's compared to about the 4,000 to 4,500 trips generated by the Home Depot and the strip mall. The one thing I want to really bring out also is that may not have come out is that there is an on-site outdoor playground in that area that is cordoned off from the Beltline, and also an indoor play area. So when you look at the access to the parks, to the bus line, to the bike trail, the indoor playground, the outdoor playground, this site meets all of the standards, and there is very little, if any, evidence that it does not.
Thanks, Robert. That's time. Appreciate it.
Okay, we'll try Tyler Valcoon again. Tyler is back.
I'm not seeing Tyler currently in attendance.
Okay. Chair, we have a number of registrants that are here as available to answer questions, so I'll read those next. The first is Scott Russell, registered from Vermont, in support, available to answer questions, representing Ultivation Inc., and I believe is here on behalf of the applicant team. Noah Fisher from Santa Monica, California, registered in support and available to answer questions, does not have an affiliation. Ryan Black of Madison, registered in support, available to answer questions, representing Ryan Black, Dave Jones, LLC. And Leah Guben of Appleton, Wisconsin, registered in support, available to answer questions, representing Lutheran Social Services of Wisconsin. We have a number of additional registrants this evening who are not wishing to speak. The registration list was sent to alders and will be posted with this meeting, which will include everyone's names. I'll just note for the record at this moment that there are 18 additional folks that have registered in opposition and 4 additional folks that have registered in support, none of which are intending to speak tonight.
Thanks, Megan. Jesse, just one last check-in for the other registrant. Tyler, yeah.
Tyler's still not showing up in attendance.
All right. If you do happen to see him, we'll move on to questions for registrants from the commission. But if he does pop in, just like raise your hand and we want to hear from him.
We do have a hand up. We may have a. Well, let me just check on this real quick.
Okay.
I will see if this person is. Well, we've got a couple of hands up here. Let me just check and see if this is Tyler.
A registrant named Valerie Shen. Is this Tyler?
Yeah, I'm not Tyler, but I thought I registered to speak.
I'm not seeing you, Valerie. I apologize. Let me just double check the list here. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing the. Oh, okay. One second. Just gotta start as we were. Okay, I'm sorry. There are a few more people that popped up to the top of this list that have registered just in the last 10 minutes. Valerie, I will note very briefly that I am still not seeing your name on the list, so I apologize. If you want to try one more time, I'll rerun the list before we conclude.
So what do I have to do?
If you go to the link at the top of the agenda, just double check here.
Valerie, if I could ask a question.
Sure.
How did you receive the link to enter this meeting? Did you fill out a registration form?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
And it said, do you support or oppose? And I opposed, and it said, do you wish to speak? And I typed in my comment and did all of that.
Okay, so Jesse, is it your assertion that if Valerie has a link that she probably registered correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I would say chances are yes.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Valerie, I'm not sure why your name is not showing up. So you're here. Can you please state your district of residence in Madison, and then you can move on with your comments.
Okay, I'm in District 10, and I'm the secretary for the Orchard Ridge Neighborhood Association. We've circulated a petition requesting a traffic study to be completed on a current traffic study to be completed on Verona Road, Verona Frontage Road, Service Road, Hammersley, and Reitz Road before approval is granted. So far, we have about 60 signatures. And this should be at the forefront of planning, especially after reading the article in the Cap Times, where as part of the Southwest Area Plan, general complaints from our area are about traffic and safety for pedestrians and cyclists. I don't think that the comment, and this is personal, this isn't that the comments are accounting for increased pedestrian and vehicle traffic. Currently, there's about 200,000 vehicles daily that cross between the Beltline and Verona Road. And this will only increase as the city grows and with future changes to the interchange by the DOT. Traffic during peak hours is already problematic, and there have already been issues with traffic on the other side of Verona Road that they've had to alter and put in a new road on Atticus Way to alleviate congestion at the roundabout. So that's from the Orchard Ridge Neighborhood Association. Personally speaking, I'm thinking that the city is kind of turning to redlining, building affordable housing on the Beltline at this intersection along major traffic corridors. And we're kind of going backwards rather than forwards, trying to find appropriate housing for those who need it, who don't have the wherewithal to afford better housing. So I think the city is going backwards rather than forwards. And I do recognize the fact that we do need more housing, but we're building it in the wrong places. So, but first of all, as an Orchard Ridge Neighborhood Association person, we would like an up-to-date traffic study because it's becoming more crowded, more vehicles, and less access to roads because we have limited exits and entrances to the neighborhood. So we would like that addressed. Thank you.
Thanks, Valerie.
And thank you for getting me in. I don't know what I did incorrectly.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, I see that Tyler Valken is back. If we want to try Tyler again.
Hi there, can you hear me now?
We can. Welcome.
All right, great. Thank you so much. So what are we here for? We're here because some wealthy, powerful developers want even more wealth and power for themselves. And the way they want to do it is by forcing lower income kids to live in a place where they're likely to develop chronic diseases like asthma. This proposed development is for 100% affordable housing, and it's sited less than 300 feet away from one of the busiest freeway interchanges in Dane County. At the previous meeting on this proposal, a traffic engineer stated that the average combined daily traffic of the Beltline, Verona Road, and the Frontage Road combined at this location is more than 160,000 vehicles per day. The vicinity to heavy traffic like this is a severe air quality hazard. Let's look at the facts. Just last year, the California State Policy Evidence Consortium, or CalSPEC, released a report on near roadway indoor air pollution, or NRAP, which is defined by the EPA as occurring within about 500 to 600 feet downwind of heavily trafficked roadways, which California Code defines as having greater than 100,000 vehicles per day in urban settings. We are well within that category here. The report's findings are that there is established evidence that NRAP increases the risk of asthma in children, diabetes, all-cause mortality, lung cancer mortality, and heart disease mortality. The developers have argued that the building will be certified as indoor air compliant. This is a red herring. CalSPEC found that outdoor air pollution is responsible for between 30 and 90% of indoor pollutant concentrations, with studies at the higher end tending to be in situations with lower indoor sources and or higher outdoor pollutant concentrations. This is exactly the scenario. Simply put, the polluted air makes its way in, and people deserve the right to open their window. Reams of evidence show that this development would make people sick. We've known this for decades, which is why this plot was zoned for commercial use. It is unfit for human habitation. It is illegal to build housing here, but the developers are asking for an exception to this law. Who benefits from this proposed exception? The developers who would directly profit. Who is burdened? The low-income tenants would be burdened from chronic disease and low life expectancy. And what happens when the poor have to go to the ER because their kids are choking from an asthma attack? The public pays for this. So not only would the developers profit directly, but the negative health burdens are also offloaded onto the tax-paying public. And do you think that sick, economically stressed people living a stone's throw away from a freeway make happy citizens? No. This development would quickly turn into a blight and cost the taxpayers boatloads of money on law enforcement. Putting it all together, we're talking about developers profiting off the misery of the most vulnerable people in our society. They want to enact modern-day redlining, forcing the poor to live in the most polluted, most degraded, most unlivable ghettos in our city. To the alders and commissioners, I urge you to oppose this exception. We need more affordable housing, but let's not build polluted ghettos in seas of asphalt. Just say no to this proposal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tyler.
Okay, I do see a couple registrants that have been added to this list. So the next registrant is Leslie McAllister of District 19, registered in support and wishing to speak.
Hi, thank you so much for your time. I'm here registering in support of this development based on my positive experience with Lincoln Avenue Communities development and the other side of the Verona Road, the Derby Apartments, a new 70-unit development. I appreciate the potential through this proposal for 93 new affordable units, particularly the 3-bedroom units, which I know are in short supply to accommodate what families need. So I am currently the board president of the Allied Wellness Center, and we have enjoyed a productive relationship or partnership with Lincoln Avenue Communities over the last about 1.5 years, 2 years. The Wellness Center has been in the Allied neighborhood for 20 plus years, and we use trained community health workers with lived experience who support and promote health and wellness of individuals, families, and communities. And in the last 3 years, we've grown from a half-time staff person we had for a decade to now 4 community health workers and a program coordinator, not all of them full-time. As a result of our partnership with Lincoln Avenue Communities, we were able to move from a small bedroom in a house that was used as office space for a nearby church, not centrally located in the neighborhood. Through this partnership with Lincoln Avenue Communities, we were able to move into the office space at the Derby, and in that way, we are also closer to the neighborhood. So we moved in October. Since then, we've had a number of successful events in that space, and we recognize, or I'm at least encouraged, that Lincoln Avenue Communities is again working with some of the local service providers to be able to offer some space for office hours, again, to address some of the needs that might arise from families that are living there. And I'm happy to connect with those service providers once they are in place to see how we might be able to collaborate with them across the way. And I'm imagining that there will be some there'll be some folks who will use those services in both spaces. So, and if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to also respond. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Leslie.
Okay. I'm going to read a few more names, and I'll just note for anyone who's listening who may have intended to speak and hasn't heard their name yet, or may feel inclined to do so. I just ran the report again and saw a few more names pop onto the list. So we are approaching the point where we only have about 2 more speakers that we'll be calling. So if you intend to speak, right now would be a good time to make your name onto the list. Our next speaker is Nicholas Davies of District 15, registered in support and wishing to speak.
Hi, yeah, thanks. Glad we could work out the technical difficulties. This project has a lot going for it, with walkable access to commercial amenities and transit and features of the property itself. And according to the staff addendum, the standards in question are 1 and 4, so I want to address those briefly. For standard 1, is it going to be detrimental or dangerous? Absolutely not. We're talking about a mixed-use, primarily residential building. For those who find a home here, it would be detrimental not to have an affordable housing option available. For standard number 4, will it impede development of the surrounding properties? No, just the opposite. The surrounding properties are mostly parking lots. So rather than area plans from the Bush 1 and Bush 2 administrations, we should look at the public commenting map for the Southwest Area Plan in progress, where I recall seeing several comments about redeveloping this area and, in particular, adding residential infill like this with walkable access to nearby businesses. As Robert Proctor pointed out, opponents to this project are asking you to apply the standards of approval in a very different way than you have with other projects, and to hold this project to a very different burden of proof. As the Commission knows, whether this project would be Mary Mullen's dream home is not a standard of approval. Whether Tyler Valcoon would choose to live here is not a standard of approval. You know, while this project has many supporters, your decision tonight is not a popularity contest. A net favorability score amongst a self-selecting group of homeowners is not a standard of approval. Some have put forward absolutist arguments that because so-and-so wouldn't live here, then no one should. But rather than considering this as a simple binary, I ask you to consider the sliding scale of options available for this property. If this proposal was for a large commercial space with a couple residential units on top for workforce housing, why not? Especially if that second story would otherwise be left underused. In the midst of a housing crisis, why not let someone live there? And then if you consider that acceptable, I ask you to introspect on what makes something like that acceptable and not something like this. To hone in on the constructive feedback that you could give to the project team to make something possible at this location, whether it's what we're seeing here tonight or something, a revision of it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Our final speaker, I believe, that's registered wishing to speak tonight is Teresa Duelo of District 10, registered in opposition and wishing to speak.
Can you repeat the name?
Teresa Duelo, D-U-E-L-O.
Don't, Teresa, if you're able to raise your hand in the Zoom.
Teresa registered about 6 minutes ago.
There's no person by that name in attendance.
Okay. I'll note then, since I called out the registrant list, we have one additional registrant not wishing to speak that registered in support. That will be posted with the updated list of registrants.
All right. All right. Are there questions from commissioners for any of the registrants? Alder Field.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question for the applicant team. Kevin, I think McDowell, is that his last name?
McDonald. Yep.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Kevin. If you can hear me, I'm wondering about the first floor plan and just wanting to make sure I understand the division of non-residential space down there. Because I'm interested in the indoor play area. Is that the section of the first floor that's labeled commons in the pale purple or light gray shaded area just off of the plaza over garage parking?
Kevin Burrell, you might be in a little bit better position to answer this one, but the indoor play area was shown on the slides and is in kind of one of the elbows right off the courtyard in green.
Okay.
That's correct. It's highlighted in the bright green color.
I understand now. That is a difference from the version in Legistar. Thank you. And then my second, also floor plan related question is about the pinkish shaded community service space. Is that the 324 square feet of rentable space for tenants that the staff report noted makes this eligible for the mixed use definition?
Yeah, that is correct. I will note that is kind of an approximate location. We are hopeful maybe that could be expanded, but that's the minimum size that we've committed to providing in our tax credit application as our community service facility space.
And do you have tenants already in mind for that, or an idea of what kinds of services you will be looking at offering through that space?
Yes. So we've already partnered with Lutheran Social Services. We have a signed agreement with them. In addition, Employment and Training Associates, who does a lot of job training actually in the Dane County Job Center space. They're also committing to providing job training classes. And then the space is also utilized for what we call our integrated supportive housing units. So anyone that has case management needs can meet with their case managers and receive any other supportive services that they may or may not need. Another example of that we didn't touch on is that we have units that are reserved for veterans. And so, oftentimes the veteran referrals come with something called VASH vouchers, and then oftentimes we're coordinating with the Dane County Veteran Service Office and their case management team to provide services in that space as well.
Okay, and then I just have a final question away from the floor plan, but thank you again for bringing that up. Kevin, I'm wondering, since areas near highways and highway interchanges are specifically called out in the comprehensive plan's definition of general commercial, as being not generally consistent with residential uses, I'm wondering if that gave you all pause as an applicant team, or if that helped you all to think about like what you would need the site to offer to offset that as kind of a a count against housing in this area. And I'm wondering what those things that you look for are that you think that this site offers.
Yeah, I guess I'll speak to more of the standards. We don't think that has any bearing on being able to meet the conditional use standards. And I guess I'll reference the development that we just completed called the Canyons. That's right off of the Beltline as well. It's I know some of the folks have toured that property, and we actually offered to have some of the neighbors tour the Canyons. It's just as close to the Beltline. You cannot even hear the sound from the Beltline at all. And just with the modern way of building buildings, the sound concerns are really not one that we have. I will say it is something that we do look at in every development we do. Our development team does something called a resiliency scorecard, and looking at potential sound concerns, railroad tracks, being near highways is something that we look at. And then if we are near those things, we do a noise study to make sure that we are mitigating those sound concerns. But really, I would echo the comments I made at the neighborhood meeting. We'd love to offer anyone to take a tour of the Canyons to see, how great, having it's really stemming from the insulation, the quality building materials. You cannot hear the noise from the Beltline at all within the units.
That answers my questions. Thanks, Kevin, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Commissioner Heck.
Thank you. This is probably for Kevin McDonald, one of the Kevins. Could you just briefly describe what you envision for that children's play area on the top of the first floor? It's kind of a small patch of green in the drawing, but is it large enough to have some playground equipment?
Kevin Burrow, I'll let you talk to more of the specifics and the size, but yeah, my understanding is, yes, it's sizable, and right now it's a general size, but we do plan to have a full play area like we have at many of our other developments. But Kevin Burrow, you can speak more of the specifics on kind of what could fit in there.
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. That is intended to be an outdoor play structure. So we do have sufficient space to be able to put your typical play structure with safe landing areas, but to then also highlight the entire outdoor area is available for kids to play in as well. It's just more of a dedicated play space for more intense activities located outside.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then one more question, and I may end up needing to ask staff about this. There's been a lot of input and things to read on this, and somewhere I read something about perhaps a new crossing of the frontage road by the proposed building. Is that correct as far as you remember? Will there be a new pedestrian crosswalk?
Well, this is Kevin Burrow. Yeah, that was brought up by traffic engineering and the Metro, such that a new striped crosswalk will be required as part of this development in order to provide access across the frontage road adjacent to our site.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was looking for. Those were my questions.
Thanks, Commissioner Heck. Alder Madison.
Thank you so very much. So I had to multitask during a portion of the developer's presentation, so I just have a couple questions, I think, for the developers. My first question is, what is the unit mix for the property? Like number of bedrooms and the mix of those?
Yeah. Let me pull. Kevin, do you have the exact 1, 2, and 3 bedroom mix? I don't.
Yep, I do.
Okay.
So thank you for the question. There's a total of 93 units, and 45 are 1 bedroom, 23 are 2 bedroom, and 25 are 3 bedroom units.
Thank you. And then my next question is around access to community spaces. I really do love that there was mention of a space, it sounds like more of a case management kind of space, but is there a space where residents who live there, they will have access to a community room free of charge, and it may have some standard hours, for example? So for example, my building has open community space, community rooms, offices, and those sort of things where I can use 24 hours a day, and I really don't need to schedule. I could just, swipe a key and get in.
Yes. So we do have a full-size community room available. It's very similar in size to what we have across the way at the Derby. We do typically have hours available, but our property management team will work with residents to organize things like birthday parties and things like that. Folks can rent it out after hours as well. You just need to make sure to coordinate in advance with the property management team for anything that's off hours.
So just to clarify my end, because this is not a caffeinated hour for me. So if young people, for example, in the three bedroom units, my assumption that there will be, families living in those with potentially teenagers or kids, younger kids, who may want to just, come and meet up with their friends to study or get on a computer or chit chat or whatever. Is the space just open? Let's just say from, 5 to 7 p.m., for example, for teenagers to come in there and jump online on their laptops, for example, get some homework done? Or would they need to? Okay, so that's the part I want to just be sure that there's space to think about how young people access the space throughout the day, and not just during rented hours, for example. And then the last, more so just a thought, which I'll probably have to share later, but I believe you said you were going to have Lutheran services on site on the property. Is that the property manager, or what is the relationship again?
They are the supportive service provider.
Okay.
So Wisconsin Management is our local property manager. And they're the ones that they manage all of our properties in all of Wisconsin. And then Lutheran Social Services they are partnered with us on definitely all of our Madison area developments to provide supportive services. And I think Leah Gubin, I believe, is on for Lutheran Social Services, if there's any specific questions for her.
Yeah, is Leah available?
Hi.
Hopefully.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Leah. Thank you. And this is just very quick. You don't really have to tell me all of your process and anything like that. I'm not looking for that. The only thing I just really would love to see and hope that you all do is to figure out how to either survey or ensure that you all have had a conversation with each family individually about the actual supportive services needed, versus taking what some folks may do is just sort of assume what's necessary. But, families end up having needs that may not be assumed, and it will be just good to hear from each individual family and the process of them moving in to identify what kind of services may be helpful for them where they live at. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, and that's definitely a part of our process. We touch base with anybody moving in, especially those in those targeted set-aside units, to go through kind of a needs assessment and develop a plan that supports what they identify as their goals. Certainly housing support is always one that we kind of always add in there to make sure that they have everything they need to be a successful tenant.
Thank you. And the last thing, because as I jumped on, I heard, I think a registrant mentioned something about ghettos. I don't believe that I heard that the city defined ghettos, nor I doubt that developer, you didn't all define ghettos and stick that in your proposals, right? I'm assuming. I just want to be sure that I'm not missing it.
That definitely wasn't referenced in any of our materials.
Okay. All right. All right, y'all. I'll be back for staff questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder Madison.
Thank you.
Other questions from the commission? I had a question for the development team, and my question was, how were the walk times calculated that were listed in the presentation? I tried to replicate those, and I really couldn't. So I'm just wondering how you got those. The walk times to the parks and grocery stores.
Yeah, this is Kevin Burrow with Kenothian Brews. We utilize Google Maps to get the exact distance and then averaged a typical walk pace, not a brisk walk, to determine the time that it would take to walk that distance. So it's really the distance in feet by an average pace.
Thanks. That my Google Maps said it would take 12 minutes to walk to Britta Park as opposed to 4 or 5, which I saw in your materials. So I was a little confused.
Oftentimes it takes you on a more convoluted route than a direct pedestrian crossing.
All right, thanks. Other commissioners have questions for registrants? All right, seeing no raised hands, I'll close the public hearing, and then now that we have time for questions of city staff on this item. Commissioner Wozniewski, goodness, sorry. It's getting late.
Thank you. No, that's fine. It's a mouthful for me. Colin, I have a question just on the staff reports. I'm going to just focus in on the issues that we've identified, the standards we've identified. The standard one, I see a lot of references to 175,000 cars a day. Some others mentioned 200,000 cars a day at that interchange. But in fact, this building is not on the Beltline. Is that correct? That it's actually on a frontage road? Do we know traffic count there? And I ask because I bike this regularly, and so I want to know, both sides of the frontage road. And so I just want to know if you have an idea of what that traffic count is.
Yeah, the frontage road is between 3,500 and 4,000, I think, a day. That's the average weekday.
Okay. So no, although we've seen the references 175,000, that's not the cars that are on these frontage roads.
Correct.
Okay. And then therefore anybody who is in the vicinity of that interchange at all would still be experiencing those 175,000 or 200,000 cars. So it wouldn't just be this project that would have to experience that.
Yes, I would say that's appropriate.
Thank you.
Commissioner Heck.
Thank you. I have a question for Assistant Attorney Kate Smith. I see she's here. Yes, okay. You ready? We heard in public comment about Wisconsin statute not allowing us to use conformity with the comprehensive plan itself as grounds for denying a conditional use. And I don't remember the exact words in public comment, but it was really more, I think, does a project meet the standards with regard to the zoning district in which it resides, I assume, rather than the comprehensive land use category in the comprehensive plan. Do I have that correct as far as you're concerned?
I think this is hopefully will answer your question.
I'm just going to pull up the statute if you give me a minute. But so the statute, and this is in, it's the one cited in the, in the materials submitted, does say that a conditional use does not need to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. But just because it says it doesn't need to be consistent does not need to be read as that a municipality can't write their own ordinances and regulations that say something different about comp plan consistency. And so if you read the statute, while it says it doesn't need to be consistent, it doesn't prohibit the city from adopting or such a standard. And if you kind of read it in the next section of 66.1001, the legislature writes out a list of ordinances that must be consistent. And I bring that up only because I think that does not need to is not the legal opposite of must. If that is, it's what's you were asking. And I would say I think that the best way to read the two statute sections together, this is 66.1001 to like MB, I think it is, in 6223.7 to E2B, the one that talks about conditional uses, is that a conditional use permit that may be issued by the city or municipality does not need to be consistent with the political subdivision's comprehensive plan, but the decision to approve or deny the application must be supported by substantial evidence. So that would be how I would probably kind of succinctly try to read those two sections of the statute together.
Thanks. That was helpful.
Thanks. Alderfield?
Thank you, Chair. So as I try to think about the importance of the difference between the generalized future land use map category that's recommended for this site compared to other sites where housing may be more straightforward, that's probably one of the critical differences that the staff report's Appendix A highlighted from a few weeks ago, is that's something fairly unique about this site, that the Plan Commission has previously approved similar projects in medium residential or in mixed use categories, but not necessarily in general commercial. And I'm trying to think about the significance of that for myself. And with an example that's fairly recent for the Plan Commission, the Northeast Area Plan last year included some changes that reverted land use category recommendations from mixed use categories to others that are less consistent with housing in a couple of different parcels around the Northeast Area Plan. I'm wondering if staff could speak to why. What about the sites is the impetus for specifically choosing to designate something as general commercial and no longer mixed use or other?
I don't know if Colin wants to take this one or if you'd like me to.
I will let you take the first shot at it. Thank you.
Sounds good. And yeah, I can speak to this at a high level. And if Colin has anything that he would like to add based on his experience from being on area plan teams where this question is frequently evaluated, please feel free to jump in. Yes, Alderfield, as you noted in the recent Northeast Area Plan, there were a couple of sites that were recommended for future land use changes that were different from the adopted comprehensive plan in 2023. There were a number of reasons for those, but I think in specific response to your question about changes from a mixed use district to one that would not necessarily recommend housing or residential uses, there were two changes in particular that I will note. One included an area of land south of Commercial Avenue near the intersections of the Interstate and Highway 30. This was a recommendation to change from neighborhood mixed use to employment. And in talking with the team that worked on that plan, it was particularly to think about the future redevelopment of what is largely undeveloped land next to a church right now, and to ensure that whatever kind of future use would not be impacted by noise from the highway. So that is a situation where there's really nothing there, but just trying to think about the future impacts of development. Another example, this is not adjacent to a limited access highway, but the site off of Lean Road, that is a commercial development that includes the Target off of Lean Road, was recommended to change from community mixed use to general commercial. This was more related to looking at the context of the site in terms of its surrounding land uses and the likelihood of redevelopment of that site in its entirety. So specifically what we mean there is the team looked at adjacent to the property on the west as an industrial use where there were some concerns about the compatibility of future land uses adjacent to both the noise and other impacts of that industrial use. And also kind of stepping out and thinking about a fairly large site with lots of active, well, not in all cases, but a lot of active commercial businesses that demand large format sites and not seeing a lot of suggestion that that property was going to transition in the near term. So in those, taking those considerations into context, the team maintained a recommendation for mixed use at the kind of sliver of the parcel most adjacent to Lean Road and recommended that the remainder of the parcel be changed to a general commercial future land use. So those are a couple examples from that planning process specifically. And in general, I think those are examples of how we try to take into consideration both what is happening on a site currently, what we think could happen in the future, how likely that evolution could be, either on a specific site or in some cases, thinking about the evolution of an entire area over time. And then we also think about things like how that future land use relates to, particularly for mixed use and residential recommendations, the proximity of similar kinds of land uses and connectivity to services and other residential supporting amenities. I hope that answers your question. Colin, feel free to add anything if you have it.
Yeah, that does. It sounds familiar, and I appreciate the tying to the kind of conversation we're having here tonight. I had one more question as a follow-up, not necessarily on this topic, but just noting that this project has been waiting for a land use approval for a while, although referrals have been at the request of the applicant. What does that mean for the 90-day timeframe that we have to make a decision on this project?
Go ahead, Colin.
So the conditional use requests like this are not subject to that 90-day time period. That is for subdivisions, CSMs, plats. They have separate requirements in state statute. For a conditional use, if a applicant requests referral, that can continue to be referred more or less indefinitely until they're prepared to appear before the Plan Commission.
Yep, just curious about that one. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Commissioner Solheim.
Thank you. In addition to the general commercial designation in the comp plan, I've also was looking at the statement of purpose for the zoning district, the CC district. And I was wondering if you could just kind of describe how that statement of purpose kind of relates to the conditional use standards in our review, if that makes sense, in addition to the designation in the comp plan.
Yeah, I can respond to that. I need a second to pull it up. I do not have all of the 40-some statements of purpose memorized yet. Someday. Just for the commission and those watching for their benefit, the statement of purpose for the commercial center district states that the CC district is established to recognize the existing large format retail and office sites within the city that remain largely auto-oriented and to encourage their transformation into mixed-use centers that are equally conducive to pedestrian, bicycle, transit, and motor vehicle activity. There are a number of other intended purposes of the district as well. I think regarding this particular statement of purpose, that first sentence or first clause kind of outlines the way that this district is typically used. Almost all large format retail areas in the city were at one time zone CC, especially after the change to the zoning code in 2013. Some of the areas, especially around East and West Town Mall, the Odana area, some of the other mixed-use areas that are beginning to transition have been rezoned to other districts, but CC remains the one that's particularly used for big box, large format retail areas. I think the rest of the statement of purpose does recognize that there are situations in which those auto-oriented uses can transition into mixed-use areas as well. For the most part, the use list and the bulk requirements, the setback requirements, and other requirements in the CC district don't tend to lend the district to the sort of mixed-use centers that some of the other districts are able to accommodate, like CCT, commercial corridor transitional, traditional shopping street, or neighborhood mixed-use, TSS or NMX. And so at the moment, it does continue to be used largely for these auto-oriented large format retail sites.
And regarding the second part of your question, I would say that the standards talk about conformity with the zoning code. So just to note that.
Thank you.
Alder Glenn.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to get this out as a newbie on the block of how I'm going to form this question because it's like combobulated in my head. So, is it when we talk about this in zoning and we have heard of other places being built in areas, is the only difference the zoning of the commercial, or were the others changed too? That would be my first question, and make that make sense. If that question makes sense to answer.
Yeah. To clarify, are you asking about the other kind of similar developments that have been approved?
Yes.
And how they compare, whether the zoning is the same, the zoning was changed, the comprehensive plan, land use designation, other things as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you,
Okay. Yeah, I can try to answer that for you. I think for the, just initially, I will refer to the commission to staff report appendix A, the chart showing the various proposals on or near the Beltline in this area, kind of along the southwest side of the city. I've identified the land use recommendation for most of these sites in there. All of the locations that are listed in that table other than Verona Road, that we are discussing right now, had community mixed use or regional mixed use recommendations, with the exception of the Summit, which is almost directly north of this site. It is at it's along Hammersley Road, and was approved in 2020, I believe. That site was actually split. It had a split land use recommendation between medium residential and general commercial. General commercial, similar to what we are discussing right now. However, there was a residential land use recommendation there as well. And so it was the commission was able to find that there was consistency with the comprehensive plan recommendation. I will say that amongst these, I believe most of these were all conditional uses and not rezonings. I'm just trying to remember. I believe the Zorshrine Place proposal was rezoned from an employment district to a residential district. It went to TRU2, which is a more dense residential district. However, the Plan Commission and the Common Council were able to find that that was consistent with the adopted plans because, as I said, there was a mixed use land use recommendation in the comprehensive plan for that site. And so that was one of the reasons why the Plan Commission was able to support that. I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
There's a number of other considerations. Every single site is different. And there are many considerations that are pertinent to one site that are not to another.
Thank you very much. We're going to say something, Megan, before I ask my second one.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I think specific to your question about the zoning for the other properties, Colin noted one example from that list that was it included a request to change the zoning district for the property. Not all of those did include that. When he mentioned that some of them were conditional uses, I think without a rezoning would mean that the zoning district that was already in place may have allowed for residential or mixed use development as a conditional use without changing the zoning. And so I think an example of that similar to this is the project that was referenced earlier, just on the Canyons, is another example. The difference here, as Colin noted, we have the future land use recommendation for that site was for mixed use. The zoning district there is also the CC district. And so the conditional use in considering the future land use recommendation was consistent, even though that zoning district generally is not typically used for that purpose, or is not the preferred district that's used for that purpose.
And so is it the 324 square foot area that would put it even to have this question be discussed of it being in a commercial district?
Yes. So any amount of leasable commercial space that is separate from the residential building, so it can't be, a business center or a gym that the residents use. It has to be a separate leasable space, but that makes it a mixed-use building. All mixed-use buildings, residential units in a mixed-use building at least, are a conditional use in the CC zoning district. If that 324 or 360 square feet of commercial space was not included, and this was a residential only building, it would by necessity have to be much smaller There is I believe it's 2,000 square feet per lot area requirement in the CC district. And so I think the size of this building would be limited to around 40 or 50 units if this was residential only. It's the fact that it is a mixed-use building that allows it to be the size that it is.
Thank you. And then last question, I know we're working on like Northeast Plan and Southeast Plan and all that. Does this area have its area plan?
This area is currently within the Southwest area, which is underway right now. I'm personally not working on that plan, but Megan is very familiar with it and can answer any questions regarding that plan.
Yeah, if there's any specific questions, I mean, Colin noted it is in the Southwest Area Plan. The team is just moving from the phase of collecting input on residents' interests in or residents sharing their input on issues and opportunities for this area. And we have not yet identified any future land use recommendations as part of that planning process.
Okay, so as far as we know, this could stay very commercially Home Depot-ish.
Yeah, I would say it's possible. You know, we have heard some comments in this area in terms of residents who have expressed some interest in seeing some, I would say, greater level of investment in this area. In some cases, I think the team has heard from some folks who are interested in that reinvestment happening in a mixed use way. In other cases, I think the comments have reflected people's interest in the area having, you know, aesthetic improvements that would make it more pleasant for them to walk along, for example. So a couple different kinds of comments. In terms of the number of comments that I understand the team has received on this site, it's not as many as, for example, the Meadowwood Shopping Center in terms of people thinking or expressing interest in seeing some evolution of the land use that's there today. But Alder Figueroa Cole is also here, who's been active in the planning process.
Yes. Just one last question for staff. So you can see, I was over there, so you can see on the other side, things, businesses, residential, pretty close up to Beltline. What is the difference in concerns from one side of the Beltline to the other?
You're referring to the neighborhood on the north side of the Beltline?
Yeah.
Versus
like
this one?
Hardware. Yeah, that side. Yep.
Yep. Yes. So I think the primary concern related to the proximity of the Beltline is going to be similar no matter where. Yes, there are some residential. I mean, there's a lot of residential units in the general area here. I think the fact that this proposal is more or less as close to the interchange, the Beltline and Verona Road, as it possibly could be, is the one of the major factors here. It's the actual proximity to both the Beltline and Verona Road. I think there are that is just one of the considerations. Like I said, there are many considerations for every different site. It is also otherwise cut off from other residential uses. It's not integrated into either a mixed use or residential neighborhood like some of the existing residential uses on the north side, where that neighborhood just continues uninterrupted onwards from there. And then also the like I mentioned, it's not just the Beltline. Also, Verona Road is a very heavily used limited access highway as well. Hammersley Road, Midvale are, very different as soon as you get north of the Beltline.
Thank you all for your time and answers.
Kara, I think you're on mute. Chair, did you say something? I think you're muted. There you go.
I did. I'm sorry. I was trying to call on Alder Figueroa Cole, and I was waiting for her to speak, but it was me. You were waiting for me to speak. Sorry about that.
I was waiting for you to speak too. I didn't want to just jump in. Thank you. So I have one clarification and a question for staff. So in regards to when Megan just mentioned about getting input for the Meadowwood area, Little Strip Mall, I just also want to be very clear that that's what was in the survey, because I did question why we didn't put in the survey, why was this area not in the survey? So, I think that is something that we definitely need to add to future questions to the public, what to do with this area, just as the same emphasis that we're giving to the Meadowwood. So we probably don't have enough data to support it, but it's because we didn't really ask about this location.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm still trying to reconcile I'm glad that one of the commissioners asked the question about the statement of purpose, like how, because when I first look at this project, the statement of purpose was the first indication of the feasibility of this development. So I'm still trying to understand how do we reconcile the statement of purpose versus the GF, whatever, I cannot say the initials, GFLU, I get them wrong all the time. Like how is that reconciled? Because to me, they seem to be in direct conflict. So, which for me is kind of has been up to this point the number one of the pinpoints of trying to understand the process. Because I can hear people with their own commentary and their own opinions and all that stuff, but you all know me. I just need to understand the process. I just want to be able to follow a process, which I know Plan Commission, and I've been part of your team already, so I understand how subjective things are. But at the general level of even before things come to you, there is a process. There are things, and those two definitions, they still confuse me. I don't understand how do you put them together to formulate a decision. Can you help me with that, please?
I don't know, Colin, you want to take this, or do you want me to? Sorry.
I'm happy to defer to you.
Okay. Alder, I think you're asking a really good question. And I'll note that just zooming out and maybe stepping away from this project, one piece of the city's process that is very typical is for us to consider aligning the zoning districts and the standards that guide development on a site at the time of a development proposal, and not necessarily at the time of a plan's adoption for the future land use recommendation. So why that's relevant is that oftentimes we are having a conversation about the future land use recommendation as part of a rezoning question, and following both our ordinance and statute in evaluating whether that zoning district is consistent with our comprehensive plan. In this case, there's not a request to rezone the property. And as you note, and I think as Colin said before, some of the conflict that you are noting in the difference between our future land use recommendation and the statement of purpose for the general commercial district, the CC district, have to do with the time in which those were adopted by the city and the tools and standards that we had in place at the time of adoption. In the staff report, for example, we noted that in the 2023 comprehensive plan update, there was additional language that was added to the general commercial future land use, which is a general land use, that provided more context for how we could consider the appropriateness of residential uses within the general commercial, within areas where that general commercial land use is applied. Colin also noted that over time, as we have made plans that recommend more wholesale evolution of certain low density commercial only districts, some of those places have been followed up by proactive rezoning on the part of the city to make the future land use recommendations and the zoning districts all kind of already match each other, rather than having to ask the question about making the zoning match the future land use at the time of an application. And so I think this is just an example where, because of the existing zoning that's in place, the question about residential uses is one that can be asked without needing to consider rezoning for this specific site. To get more specifically at your question about how it relates to the standards, Standard 8, while it's talking about typically we reference Standard 8 in the context, as you saw in the staff report for this project, of the sort of aesthetics of a project. It does talk about making sure that the project is compatible with the intended character of the area and statement of purpose of the zoning district, which is where you can consider the statement of purpose for this zoning district in thinking about the application to this project. I will note, though, that there are other standards that talk about just ensuring that the project itself is consistent with all of the requirements of the zoning code, which is not something we typically get into in a detailed way because the zoning staff does that review before the Plan Commission sees these projects. So I'm sorry, I might have over-articulated the answer to that one, but hopefully that's helpful.
I mean, I understand it is complex, and
It's complex, yeah.
yes, I may need a picture of this one eventually. But and so then the other question is, based on all the multiple pieces of information that we have received, and the addendums or whatever to the staff recommendations, I just want to make sure that I have this clear, because I think it has come up a few times. So this area doesn't have a plan. The existing plan, the plan that, there's a future plan in the works, but it doesn't have a plan. So we had to then look at a comprehensive plan in order to make a decision. The building across from West Town Mall, that is in a other major intersection, which ironically has a U-Haul truck on the background. When you look behind it, which I just found ironic, has an area plan, right? That's why that was allowed, because he was in conformity with the area plan. But neither one, having the area plan or not having the area plan, doesn't give you an indication of when those businesses are going to sell and actually bring that continuity for housing. Like, we don't know when that's going to happen, right? Like, even if you had the plan or don't have the plan, you don't know if U-Haul is going to sell at the Cannons and we can add more housing there. We don't know if Home Depot wants to, do something different. We don't know that. That is not a certainty, correct?
Yeah, certainly we don't know any of those things with certainty. We do our best in a particularly area plan process, or when we're updating the comprehensive plan, we do our best to try to understand how likely changes may be given what we are able to find out during that planning process, but we don't ever know those things with certainty. That's correct. In terms of I think you're referencing again the canyons Colin can correct me if I'm wrong here, but this may have been an area where even prior to the West Area Plan's adoption, the comprehensive plan was pulling in some West Town Area Plan recommendations, for example, so that future land use recommendation was already indicating mixed use even prior to the West Area Plan's adoption. But this site is in an area plan that is currently under development.
And also, to a third point that I just want to ensure that there's clarity, like we are, like the Odana area plan or the Mall area plan, I don't remember the name of that also calls for housing on the Beltline. So it's not like we will expect, or we will probably request from those developers to use materials that minimize the noise and the pollution that will be, for those developments within the Odana corridor that are right on the Beltline in the future, I suppose, right? So we're not going to just tell them you cannot build here because of the Beltline.
I think the nuance there is that the Odana area plan, the comprehensive plan, the West area plan identify the areas along the Beltline where we as a community have identified as good places to build a mixed use neighborhood and transition that more auto-oriented employment or commercial uses to more residential, and identifying those spaces where it's more appropriate for that residential and mixed use supportive services and other amenities. So I know you're not making like the blanket statement that everywhere in the West area or Odana area planning area along the Beltline can have residential, and then it needs those certain building techniques. But there are some areas that could accommodate that the plans would support, and then larger areas along the Beltline, specifically, if you look at the map where you have a similar land use recommendation as what is here, the general commercial or employment, where those uses just are not supported, regardless of the noise mitigation, pollution mitigation, construction techniques or not.
Yeah, I understand that, Colin. So what I was asking actually is that, I don't want people living near the Beltline. That's just, nobody wants that. But today we are not going to, because we already have a plan in place in areas like the Odana corridor. Noise and pollution is not a reason to not to allow the building to go up. That's what I was asking. Like, because we, like you just said, you already decided where these buildings are going, but they're still going on the Beltline. So that's no difference when it comes to the discussion specifically related to noise and pollution from the Beltline.
And yes, I think specific to things like sound or air quality, while we, as we noted in the staff addendum, cannot directly require certain aspects of projects that will mitigate against or provide additional mitigation against those factors, we have encouraged them in those cases, I believe, as well. And I'll just note here too that in providing future land use recommendations, even in some places adjacent to the Beltline, those recommendations have been made zooming out and thinking about the context of other redevelopment around those areas as well. And in some cases will include map notes or other recommendations as part of the plan that try to lay out factors that would make the mixed use or residential use compatible with a transitioning area.
Thanks.
Other questions for staff? I wonder if we are ready to construct a motion that we could discuss. Alder Uguier.
I will try, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Finding that the conditions for approving a mixed-use building in a CC district are met, and in particular, finding that the conditions number 1, 2, 4, and 8 are satisfied, looking at the details of the supplemental presentations by the developer and comments thereon by staff. I move that we approve the conditional use for this project.
Thanks, Alder Uguier. Commissioner Heck, that's a second for the motion. All right. Discussion. Alder Uguier, I think we do want to, I mean, you've definitely cited the standards. I think we also want to identify some of the substantial evidence for this one. And maybe that's where you're going.
That is precisely where I'm going, and I think I will probably be supplemented by some of the other commissioners. But I want to refer particularly, since I had some misgivings about this project after the initial staff report, the initial presentation, but I thought that the supplemental presentation by the developer, looking at each of these conditions one by one, and looking at such matters as walking time to the various amenities, whether it's grocery stores or Britta Park or the other parks in the area, the propinquity of the opportunities to use the Southwest Path, the condition of the crosswalks and so forth, at least for me, was very helpful in coming to terms with some of the things. In fact, I was familiar with this area, I think, as Commissioner Wisniewski was from biking, because I find it a very accessible area, even from my own home, which is some distance away, by using the Southwest Path. But I wanted to get a closer look at the pedestrian situation and some of the concerns that were expressed by comments here tonight and previously supplied comments by residents. So I spent some time today walking the area, determining how long it took me, using the tunnel back and forth, using the other access across Verona Road down at the roundabout, and found that, in fact, the access is pretty good in just about every direction. I'm sure each of us has a different sense of risk. I didn't sense any particular risk, either using crosswalk across the, which I guess will be improved, over to the path which leads to the tunnel. There just wasn't a scary amount of traffic, notwithstanding the curves, and that was a good point to observe it. Britta Park is not a big park, but it's not a bad park. And I understand from what we saw in staff comments and from parks that there will be some improvements. And certainly just based on personally walking around, it looks like the timing that I think you questioned before, how was it constructed to some of the grocery stores and so forth, seems to be accurate. And I just say finally that having been a resident participant in the development of the of the Odana area plan, which was subsumed last year by the West area plan, in which I was an Alder representative, that as we developed those things, transition was underway. Retail, whether it's big box, large and dense uses or so forth, are changing in this country. It's just that the process had started there. And it would seem to me that there's likely to be some long-term process in this area. And the first transition is always the hardest one. And that's this project. But that in terms of our long-term intent and what I have a hunch we will end up thinking about as we finalize the Southwest area plan, that this will make a first good transition. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Alder Uger. Is there other discussion on the motion? We have a motion and a second on the table. Commissioner Wisniewski.
Thank you. Just to reinforce some of Alder Uger's comments, and this is an area that I am in daily. This is where I live. This is where I access my services. I've walked there. I've biked there. My kids go there. They went there by themselves when they were in middle school and elementary school going through this area. I never had any concerns for them traveling along here. So, I think that it is probably one of the more accessible parts of the city and can get you other places very easily. And so I think, that all supports meeting standard 1. And as Alder Uger said, standard 4, with respect to impeding the commercial development. We see this changing, and I support his conclusion as well.
Thanks. Commissioner Heck, did you have other comments? All right. Other comments? If not, we're ready to call a vote. And I'll do it our usual way. Is there objection to unanimous approval for this item? And if so, we'll do a roll call. But all right. I see no objection, and we'll record the item as passed unanimously. Thanks for the good discussion, and there was a lot in this. So I appreciate everybody's attention and patience as we got through it. So well done. That is actually our last agenda item with our modified consent agenda. And this is now time for member announcements, communications, and business items. Does anyone have anything they want to share? All right, and seeing none, we'll go to the secretary's report.
Just a couple of items from last week's council meeting. As you see in the list of items at the end of your agenda, there were a number of items for the council's action following the Plan Commission, including the package of zoning code changes that were forwarded by staff. All of those were approved, including the substitute language that the Plan Commission recommended regarding the extensions for conditional use applications. You'll see on that list that the council also approved the rezoning for 6610 to 6706 Old Sauk Road. This item was originally approved by the council in June of 2024, but was remanded back to the council by the circuit court to make findings on the record for its decision. That was approved by the Common Council following that discussion and those findings, and the decision was consistent with the Plan Commission's recommendation from last summer. You'll see in the list of upcoming matters for the Plan Commission meetings in July. I'm sure you'll be happy to note that we're going back to just 2 meetings in July instead of 3 like we had in June. That in addition to the development related items that were referred from your agenda tonight, we will also be looking on July 7th at a number of other development requests. And 3 zoning code changes that will be referred to you as part of the Housing Forward initiative. So just wanted to mention that those are available. There are links to the ordinances as well as a webpage under the Housing Forward webpage if you're interested in reading ahead on what those ordinances include. And those ordinances will also be discussed at the Housing Policy Committee meeting this Thursday evening, June 26th, and at a community meeting on July 2nd in the evening. So if you're interested at all in attending those to hear some of that discussion before those come before you, those will be on your agenda in just a couple of weeks for discussion and recommendation for the council. I'll end there, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Megan. Any questions for Megan? Seeing none, I'd ask for a motion and a second to adjourn. Alderfield, thank you. And Commissioner Mendez, thank you. Any objection to unanimous approval for the motion to adjourn? Seeing none, we'll stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody. See you in a couple weeks.
Have a good evening.